Welcome to another edition of Moxie Talk, where we give you an intimate look into the courage, character, and defining moments of today's most inspiring individuals. I'm Kirt Jacobs, host of Moxie Talk, where previous guests have included leaders from the world of politics, business, culinary, sports, entertainment, art, law, community activism, and philanthropy. Today, our 434th guest in our series, we welcome retired professional wrestler and co-owner of Ohio Valley Wrestling, drumroll, the one and only Al Snow, whose real name is Allen Ray Sarven, a well-known figure in the professional wrestling industry, both as a performer and as a trainer. He was born on July 18, 1963 in Lima, Ohio. Snow has had a long and varied wrestling career for major organizations such as WWE, which is the World Wrestling Entertainment, and ECW, which is Extreme Championship Wrestling, and TNA, which is Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, among others. Now, Al is perhaps best known for his time in WWE during the late 1990s, early 2000s, where he was recognized for his charismatic personality and in-ring abilities. He will talk about this extensively, but he was also famous for his gimmick with head, a mannequin head that he carried to the ring and used as part of his act, which became a huge hit, understandably, with fans. In addition to his wrestling career, Al Snow is a respected wrestling trainer. He took over OVW, Ohio Valley Wrestling, a Louisville, Kentucky-based wrestling promotion operation that has served as WWE's and Impact Wrestling's developmental territory. And under Snow's leadership, OVW has continued to be a prominent training ground for up-and-coming wrestling talent, contributing significantly to the development of future stars. In fact, Snow was featured heavily in the 2023 Netflix docuseries, What Else?, called Wrestlers. And following the series release, OVW had their first Thursday night sold-out show in 8 years. Al has 6 children, and in 2017, he married the lovely Jessica Goucher, and in 2021, Snow saved the life of a child from an ocean riptide at Santa Rosa Beach, which says to me that wrestlers do have a heart. Welcome, Al. We are humbled and honored you took your valuable time to be with us today on Moxie Talk. Thanks for being here.
I really appreciate you having me. I'm really was excited about coming down here and doing this. It's really, I'm really looking forward to it.
Can you define leadership or wrestling in one word, if you had to, in the great English lexicon, as I call it?
Never ask anyone to do something you wouldn't do yourself. That's it.
I got it.
You're in authority is directly in relationship to your responsibility. If you have no responsibility, guess what you have? Zero authority. If you have all of the responsibility in a particular area or company or whatever, guess what? You have all the authority. If you're the one who at the end of the day is going to be the one that pays the bill, you have all the say. If other people can pay parts of the bill, they get part of the say. If I walk into my kid's house tomorrow and I start paying their mortgage and their electric bill and buy their groceries, I get to tell them how to live their lives. You know why? Because I'm taking all the responsibility. So therefore, I get all the authority. If they want that responsibility back, they can have it at any time, and they can then therefore have the authority to make those decisions.
Al, what do you consider to be your why? We kind of touched upon it earlier. You know, what makes you do all this? What's your why? You know, in other words, what motivates you?
I just love to live. I love to go do. I love to go experience. I love to just go. I've always been that way. You know, I've always just, I'll sit at home, I'll do nothing. I love that. But I mean, I love to go out and do something, create something, make something. You know, whether it's good or bad, at least, you know, I'm going to leave some kind of mark. So might be a skid mark, but I'm going to leave a mark. That's for sure.
Man, you're killing me, man. Do you like to be alone, or do you have a problem being alone?
No, I've spent probably a large majority of my adult life alone by being on the road. A large part of my life, you know, you're with people. Yeah, there is a camaraderie with those people, but they're also competing with you. And what a lot of people don't understand, and I'm sure it applies, you know, to lots of other walks of life, but like, and I try to teach this to the young people in OVW, because they all right now have a destination.
Sure.
They're
on the way.
Yeah, I mean, when I started doing it, it was to do it because I want the 3 goals I had, quite honestly, literally when I was 18 years old, I was like, I want to be able to do this for a living and make a decent, be able to take care of my family and myself. I didn't really think of a family at 18, but
No, right.
but that was the essence of it, and I wanted to create moments or matches that people would remember. And I feel like I've done that because I've over the years had lots of different people, even before ever going into WWE, that have come up and, oh, I remember this time and you did this, or you said this, or you acted this way, or that happened, and and then I wanted to be able to create a name that when I left, when I was no longer in the business, people would still acknowledge and would recognize.
What do you consider to be your biggest, most positive contribution to humanity, or has it even happened yet?
I doubt that it's even happened yet. I don't think I've really changed anybody's life by putting on some tights.
I don't know. You've changed.
Smacking somebody with a plastic head.
I think you're too self-deprecating. I'll just say this as a fellow human in the short time I've known you and OVW. I mean, watching all those people in the docuseries, watching them, the 2 nights I've been there, both the people I've come with and watching the performers, you're changing lives. You're not doing it by yourself.
Yeah, I'm flattered.
I mean, it takes a village. That's that old phrase. But I mean, there's something there.
But it doesn't take a village.
Okay.
It takes one person to be willing to accept the responsibility that they want to be different and do something different, and then they can change the world. That takes a village thing. I used to get in trouble a lot because we'd do the WWE, would always trot me out when we were having the wrestling, and of course the media would show up and what do you consider yourself a role model for children? I go, yeah, mine. I consider myself a role model for mine. I don't consider myself a role model for yours. Your children can look at me and can idolize me. We all do that as adults.
Yeah.
We idolize celebrities, but they ain't a role model. You know who's a role model for me? My parents. Nobody else. Do you know why? Because it takes a parent to raise a child. It doesn't take a village to raise a child. And if your child is looking outside of his or her door for a role model, you parents aren't doing your job.
Failed.
You instill in your children whatever it is as far as thoughts, ideas, and morals that are in line with you. And they get out in the real world and they see me doing something that ain't in line, well, they're not going to do it. Simple as that. They're not going to fall under that influence. So, but this cop-out of it takes a village, no, don't. I've never asked my postman to raise my kids. Never asked their teachers to raise them. And this crazy thing of the TV, you know what I do, and I used to do? If they were, I've made money, so I was able to afford TV sets, and apparently my wife at the time loved them too and bought them all over the house. But each one of those TV sets came with something. It was called a remote.
Yeah.
You know what? If I walked in and I saw they were watching something I didn't want them to watch, I went, click, no, you're not watching that. Crazy, but it entailed that I had to get up and go find them, and then, or when they were watching it with me, and I go, oh, that's getting a little
I've
sketchy.
had to do that, yeah.
And I'll turn it, and then when oh, that's probably past now, I'll turn it, or you put the hands over
Exactly.
What are you doing?
What keeps you motivated when things get tough, when you're running on empty? You've talked about moments where you've had lows in your career. You went and did the head thing, and so what keeps you motivated? And now you're in this, like you said before, things change and the experience is in, and you're in this whole different phase and chapter of, you're more the producer or promoter, I would say, than the actual performer.
Yeah.
What keeps you motivated?
I think people think I'm kidding and they think I'm being self-deprecating, but really I have only one singular talent. That's it. And that is I just don't quit. And I don't know why. I don't, and I don't know where it came from. I don't know if anybody instilled it in me, but I've always been that way.
Did your parents have a lot of energy?
Oh, yeah. I mean, my father was a very charming, very, outgoing, down-to-earth person, and my mother was very active and as well. I, as a kid, was a little more introverted, and was, and I loved to read. Like I still, I've read because of traveling so much, I've read every classic piece of literature you're supposed to read. I've read all kinds of mythology. I read the Bible. I read the Quran. I haven't read the Torah. I read the Book of Mormon. You know, I've read all the time. I still read comic books every week because I love and the writing. You know, I had stopped for a while, and then I met a friend who is a comic book artist, and he kind of got me hooked back in. And because of the level of sophistication and character development, and it just took me right back into it again. So, you know, it wasn't like the simplistic ones that I would read when I was a kid. So, you know, so it's just a form of storytelling, graphic storytelling. That's just all it is. So, but I still love to read, and then, you know, and I love nothing more than to, you know, go and sit somewhere and.
Well, you have a high energy level. That's why I was, you know, like I said, if I didn't know you and all the surgeries and injuries you had and your background, I mean, I would never in a million years think that that was your background. So
well, I just in public I turn that on,
right.
And then when I go home, I turn it right
the
off.
Troll
and
comes
out.
Yeah. So how could you describe in particular detail a scenario where you utilize your own philosophy on leadership? You had mentioned earlier in the leadership one-word description question, I think it was modeling. So maybe you could.
I do every day. You know, I acknowledge my responsibility in regards to OVW as a company. I acknowledge my responsibilities in regards to all of the production staff, any of the employees, and all of the talent. And I try to whatever degree I can, because a lot of times I just can't do everything. You know, I try to lead by example, and I do live by the rule that I'm never going to ask someone to do something that I wouldn't do myself.
So you started the training academy with Ohio Valley Wrestling.
Yeah.
Is that still ongoing? And
it is.
And there's not very many of those, correct?
Well, no, there actually is a proliferation.
Oh, I'm
of them.
sorry.
It's
way.
unfortunate
Okay.
because really how all of this came to be, the owning of Ohio Valley was, I was at the time, because I'd bought the company from Danny Davis, the founder, in 2018, and that was with my partner Chad Miller and Joe Reeves. And I had met Chad Miller. Well, he was the executive director of the Kentucky Boxing Wrestling Commission. And I was getting very frustrated. I kind of go through that every once in a while, apparently in periods of my life. I was getting very frustrated that there was no standards as far as professional wrestling were concerned. And my wife is a licensed therapeutic masseuse, and she's licensed.
Right.
So she had to go to a state accredited school. She had to be taught by a state accredited teacher, complete a certain number of state required hours of education, and then had to have a certain number of residency hours, hands-on supervised experience, before she could even take a test to have a license. And that applies to whether you're a barber, you're a beautician, you're a mortician, and let's face it, what could go wrong there?
Wow.
Your topic's already assumed room temperature. So,
Yes.
but as a licensed professional wrestler in any state that has a commission, you just take a physical and you pay your money. And ta-da.
So a heartbeat, basically.
There's exactly. You have a pulse. You can fog a mirror. Well, congratulations, you're now a professional wrestler.
Wow.
And that irritated me. And I found it insulting.
That's fascinating because I would have never thought that.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I would have thought there was 4 or 5 core ones around the country, and they all kind of had their own little flavor.
There's good ones. I mean, like Booker T was a former WWE superstar, has one in Houston. You have NXT, which is the developmental for WWE, which is obviously. But one thing that we have that none of them have is that we're actually accredited by the State Office of Proprietary Education, that they oversee all secondary education, all universities, all trade schools, all of that. And we're actually certified as a trade school for professional wrestling, sports entertainment.
So you can get a certificate or a degree.
Well, you get a certificate, but the thing that we do that no one else does is we don't just. I've never looked at, like a lot of people do, like professional wrestling schools or training centers or whatever. They look at it like it's like learning martial arts or boxing, and it's not. It's you're literally teaching young men and women skills to pursue a vocation, a career that they can go out and have opportunities to really make a living at. So that being the case, we don't just teach the in-ring part of things, the physical aspect, the psychology of storytelling, all of those things. We also teach them how to operate a camera, how to do lighting, how to do sound, how to do editing. Wonderful friend of mine who's a former wrestler, his name's Mike Bucci, is the vice president of Fifth Third Bank. He comes in, teaches a personal finance class.
That's brilliant. That's great.
You know, we teach social media management. We teach live event management. We so that, because it's not a matter of when, or I mean if, it's a matter of when their in-ring careers are going to come to an end. And if they have some of these kind of skills, they could potentially parlay them into still having a career.
Which helps the whole industry.
Correct. And two good examples of that really inspired me to do it was when we did Tough Enough 2, there was a young girl, her name was Jessie, and she got eliminated from the competition. She voluntarily came back to be an intern for Tough Enough 3 with MTV. That led to her being a backstage segment producer for WWE. She then learned skills and took those out and became a television producer for major television projects around the world. And still has a huge successful career, all because she learned other skills. We had a young man by the name of James Long who came in from Virginia initially years ago, started wrestling with OVW. He taught himself how to edit, how to operate cameras, lighting, sound, all of that. Was so immensely talented at it that as a wrestler, he only reached a certain level. But he had a feel, and because of that he had done it, he had experienced what was going on in the ring, he was able to communicate that through his projects. I got him hired with Impact Wrestling, and then from there he got hired with WWE and is a top executive producer for WWE and has been there for the last several years. So, you know, and has a completely different career than what he had initially thought he would have when he first broke into wrestling. So, you know,
how many people have gone through real quickly, roughly?
OVW as a whole, I'd say
The training, I mean.
Oh, the training in that. Since we've become a certified trade school, I'd say probably 20 or 30.
Yeah.
You know, it's always fascinating to watch. Then I got to learn to just accept it. And it was part of what fascinated me with my involvement in Tough Enough was everyone has a fantasy of what it is they want to do. And then when they meet the reality of what it really takes to do it, how quickly some people, and I always tell them, you should be very proud of yourself. You should not be disappointed because you did the one thing that probably 98% of the population wouldn't do.
Yeah.
You just came in here and tried.
Yeah.
How many people will say, oh, I'd love to do that? Well, go do it.
Right.
And they just won't.
Exactly.
Because they're, for whatever reason.
Exactly.
You know? So I try to make it a positive, but I do understand that there is an immense difference between what you thought it was going to be like and what it really turns out to be.
I got you. Do you think there's a difference today in your respective, in this case, wrestling journey than when you first got started? I mean, we're talking almost half a century roughly.
Immensely.
Better, worse, or different?
I think in a lot of ways better for the performers. When I first got into the wrestling business, it was a very closed, very secular business, and was really, quite honestly, was operated a lot like you would think the rules of a mob or mafia. You know, you were held accountable for different things, and a large part of that was because the vast majority of the people that were in it they utilized it as a form of making a living, and they never ever wanted to put that at risk. And if you were a person who put that at risk, then you were blackballed, you were pushed out. And as such, it took a lot to earn and still does to this day with a lot of the older guys, but it took a lot to earn trust.
I can imagine.
And then it took even more to earn respect.
So I love this question. You've been all over the world. I think you said 35, 40 countries.
Yeah.
You know, you've traveled quite extensively by comparison to a lot of our guests. You know, and you're driving your own bus. You know, if you were granted 2 weeks right today, or you gave yourself 2 weeks, 14 calendar days, 10 business days, ideally no technology, money's not an object, just to make the point of the question, Where do you go? What do you do? Who do you take with you?
Well, I'm going to take my wife.
Okay.
She'd get hot, you know.
Jessica.
But no, she's awesome to travel with. And I mean, I've never gotten a chance or an opportunity to go to Russia, so that would be an amazing experience. God, I've never gotten a chance or an opportunity to go to Turkey. China, I would love to go to China to see it, to experience it.
Now, would you like be in a hotel? I don't want to get too long-winded on this, but I mean, what part of it would you take in? Would you do I don't want to call it glamping, that's not fair, because we all tour and travel and we stay in nicer places.
I don't mind, you know, when I would travel, like, you know, when I first came to WWF at that time in 1995, we went, like, one of the first international things we did was we went to Germany for like 19 days straight. You know, but I would purposely get up every morning, and we were like, this was just a few years after they tore the Berlin Wall down.
Okay, yeah.
So we were the first international entertainment company to go over into Eastern Germany.
Okay.
And it was fascinating because in '95 there were still, like, what you think were chuck holes were holes in the roads from where they dropped the bombs in World War II.
Yeah.
And some of those towns, you know, it's different than it is here in America, because some of those towns were in existence for hundreds of years. And so, you know, you'd be downtown and you'd see bullet holes in windows and upstairs and things like that in Dresden, Germany, where the war had taken place. And they just had never, you know, the economy in Eastern Germany was so bad, they just never had the money to reinvest and repair a lot of that damage. But I would get up every morning and I would go out and I would literally make it a point to sightsee and go off, you know, and find stuff and and it's amazing what you can see and do, and I've been, like I said, I've been very blessed. I've been on 5 or 6 different safaris in South Africa.
Wow.
I've been, you know, at a Boomba, which is like almost like a luau in the plains of Africa. And
well, the way things are going, you might be able to still do all of
I
that.
hope so.
You got chapters left in you.
Yeah, but you know, or, you know, a week of that, if I could just go out and go places and see some things and experience, because there's so many things in the world that you just never get a chance to see it all. You know, you just want to go see more.
It's a big planet.
Yeah,
That's for
there's
sure.
a lot.
Well, so I
of
tell my
stuff.
son, I was like, don't stay here. He's a little young. When he gets a little older, I'm going to, don't stay here, go.
Get out. I think really what we should do, honestly, like in this country especially, it's not the same as it is in Europe, and because you can just get on a train and go from France to Belgium and you know, Germany, and you know, and there's, in each place is a different culture. What Americans don't understand is that culturally we're all different too. Northeast is completely a different culture than it is in the Midwest. Midwest is completely different than it is in the Southeast. The West is different. Southwest is different than, you know, the West. You know, Northwest is completely different culture.
If you could have a dinner alone with anyone, living or deceased, who would it be and why? And it could be someone famous, not famous.
Oh, probably my dad.
Okay.
Probably my dad. Get one more chance. You know?
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, it would. Would you have a buffet, or would it be like steak and potatoes?
Steak and potatoes.
Yeah, I got you.
Get a good steak.
Yeah.
Nothing better than.
No, if it's done right.
Yeah.
Sauteed onions.
I don't like onions.
Oh, okay.
Ugh.
All right.
But good
The
steak.
guy can come off the top rope, but he doesn't like onions.
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. I don't like to eat what my food eats, you know. So
There
as
you
far as
go.
vegetables or salad, things like that, I try to avoid it. So, you know, it disrupts the food chain.
Sure.
And I mean, if we as a species have spent this much time in evolution to get to the top of it, why am I going to ruin it?
If you could have written a letter to the younger Al Snow, or your original name,
Yeah.
what would you have told him?
Just go for it. Stop being scared. There is no such. I honestly think there is no such thing as failure. I don't think there's no way to fail. There's just not. The only time you fail is if you just quit. But if you quit, it's because that story stopped, and now you get to go tell another story. So you didn't fail. And I don't understand. I really have been, as I've gotten older, trying to struggle. What's success? Just what is it? Because everybody talks about it. Everybody says, "Oh, he's successful." oh, she's successful. Why? Because they make money? That doesn't make them successful. You know, oh, they they got to the top. Okay, but do you think that that's a success? What makes success? How about if you just are doing what you love to do and you're having a great time doing it and enjoying it? Then I think that's success. Does that mean that you might make more money than me? Yeah, you probably do. I mean, I own a wrestling company in Louisville, Kentucky, so we're going to go on a limb and say you probably do make more money than I do. But I bet you don't have near as much fun as I do.
Yeah.
I bet you don't get to have as many opportunities to be as creative as I do.
Yeah.
I bet you don't laugh near as much as I do, you know? And yeah, there are lots of times I want to choke somebody until they literally defecate their pants, but...
That's such a great note to wind down on.
but I wouldn't change it for the world.
So you're our 434th guest. No one's gotten out of the rocket seat, hot seat as I call it, in all of those Moxie Talks interviews. This is our signature question.
Sure.
You know, God forbid you walk out of here today, the studio, and it's your last day on earth. How do you want to be remembered by family, friends, you know, co-wrestlers, co-promoters, owners? I could go on down the list.
I just want to be remembered.
You will be.
Oh, that's it. That's the one thing we all work so hard to do, and we don't even realize that we're trying to do it. We all just want to be remembered. Because when you pass away from existence, nice way of saying you die, you croak, assume room temperature. When you do, you're still alive. You're still present because somebody's still mentioning your name. You don't really die until the last person says your name for the last time. And I do everything I can every day to make sure that's going to go on as long as possible, long after I'm gone.
It's very true.
Somehow, some way, even if they're cussing me incessantly, they still talk about me, which means I'm still there.
And it's true, having lost parents, they're right there.
They're right. As long as you mention their name, they're always there. When you stop saying a person's name, that's because you really die two times. You physically die, but you really don't completely die until no one mentions your name ever again. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure people are going to mention my name one way or another, some reason.
Well, there's more chapters, man. So I think, Al, you've got...
I told you, 33 years.
Yeah.
I'm tapping out. 93, I'm done.
Man, I'm humbled and honored you took your valuable time to come
No,
on
I
here.
really appreciate this. I really enjoyed it.
If you've enjoyed today's discussion and it's inspired you, we would love to hear from you. And if you know someone who has Moxie and a story worth sharing, let's talk. Simply visit our website, moxietalk.com, or type Moxie Talk with Kirt Jacobs on all your social media platforms. Until next time, I'm Kirt Jacobs. Thanks for watching.